Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. You know, making money is one thing, but keeping it is a completely different skill set. It requires you to be intentional and in alignment with who you are rather than just following the latest trends and fads in the financial world. Well, my guest today is Audrey Godwin. She is an award-winning financial strategist and champion for women's economic development, as well as the creator of the Position for Profit System, a framework for women professionals and entrepreneurs to align their finances with the vision, values, and priorities for every season of their lives and business, allowing them to keep more of what they make so they can fund their lifestyle for their lifetime. Audrey, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, because one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you have a unique perspective around finances. That's not just about, moving numbers into different columns. It's also about, the importance of making sure that it all aligns with who a person is. So what I'd like to do is kick this off by asking you to tell us a little bit about the types of people that you help with this.
Oh, well, thank you for asking that. I primarily work with women professionals and entrepreneurs who are really brilliant at what they do. Providing products and services for their own company or services within a company, who are really wanting to understand more about their finances, but haven't been able to in a way that, one, they either haven't been taught, or they've had service providers who haven't spoken to them as if they truly understand what's happening with their taxes or their wealth management, or have just been in a place where they feel like they're managing okay, but for every level of expansion and growth, they're not really getting the results because they seem to be in a rut financially. So they're not really getting the added benefit of return on investment on their blood, sweat, and tears. They're not seeing that result financially.
Well, money and finances have a heavy emotional tug to a lot of us. It's tough to just think clearly and logically a lot of times about the decisions that we make. And one of the things that you're recognized for is your ability to, one, understand that, empathize with, the fact that people have emotional ties to money, but also your ability to make decisions with a clear head, to be able to separate those two, so people are making sound decisions with their money. And I know that a lot of your clients really feel that you're a valuable partner in helping them become what is called fearless and financial savvy leaders. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, happy to tell you about that, because it is true, right? Our soul is made up of our mind, our will, and emotions. And when those are out of alignment, right? So I kind of call it whole soul finance, in where we really talk about, what do you believe? Not just what you conjured up and thought you believed, but what are the things that have influenced you over time? Your culture, your childhood environment, your school experiences, all of the chatter that goes on online around money and finances makes it appear to be you just have to make a decision and run with it, when really you have to understand what you believe about who you are, who you're becoming, and what is it that you believe you're capable of, receiving and building when it comes to making money, keeping money, building financial assets for yourself and for the people you care about.
Well, a lot of times when it comes to money and finances, people they're very uncomfortable talking about that, even with financial professionals. But obviously it's important for them to get comfortable around that. What are some of your suggestions, and is it possible for people to kind of relieve some of that stress and tension around being comfortable with talking about their finances? And what are some ways that you would suggest going about doing that?
Oh, absolutely. I do think that we talk about finances. We just don't talk about it with any depth or any substance, right? We always hit sort of the, hey, yeah, I have a job and I make money and I have a nice car and a nice house. You can go on Zillow to see how much my house is worth if you look at the neighborhood. But we don't talk about it because it becomes very intimate and personal. And so for many of us, our wealth, our money, what we earn becomes attached to our self-worth on some level. And I've heard this saying over time, especially when, hearing marketing to women is, hey, you have to charge what you're worth. And I always just say, no, because what I charge, make money on is the value that I provide, not what I'm personally worth, because I don't sell myself, so to speak. I sell the results I provide or the solution that I'm providing to a problem. And so when we want to start talking about money, we can start those conversations at home, right? We can sit down with our life partner and start talking about, what's really important to us as a family. What are the values that we have as a couple, individually and as a couple, and how can we make sure that we're just not going to work or building a business to pay the bills, but to enhance the quality of our life and to meet goals that we want to do. That's one way to start the conversation. If you have children, it's good to get them in on conversations around managing finances. When my children were younger, I gave them a weekly allowance for them to manage their money, and then I had them get paid for certain specific chores that were outside of them keeping their bedrooms and their bathrooms picked up and cleaned every week. So then it allowed them to understand that they needed to manage. If they wanted to do things with their money, we could talk about it. And then we would talk about how, as a family, we would budget so that everything that needed to be taken care of was taken care of. And the things we wanted, we could also fund that as well. I think part of the conversation around money just really needs to come back to the idea of why don't I talk about it, and what makes me so uncomfortable talking about it? Because people have no issue talking about religion, politics, and sex. But when we talk about money, all of a sudden we have no idea where to start.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point, when you talk about how, we kind of have this convoluted idea of our values, because I think, especially, I guess in this country and maybe in a lot of places around the world, people do equate their worth to, how many minutes a day they're sitting at a desk, right? Or they confuse that activity, right, with worth, rather than the value of the results. And I imagine the same thing is when it comes to growing your money, that, activity doesn't necessarily create wealth, right? It's those, like I talked about at the top of the show, those intentional decisions that can have a bigger effect on results. What do you think of some of the myths or misconceptions people have around that they think, well, I'm doing this, I'm following, this advice, or I'm following what other people have always said that you should do. That's, like you said, not providing the results they're looking for, versus what are some things that may not require as much activity, that will give them those bigger results?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is, you said bigger results. It's sort of like, are they getting any results at all, right? Because right now in a money market, a savings account, it's not really paying much interest, but that doesn't mean all of a sudden empty out your savings account and throw it into the stock market if you don't know exactly what you want to be investing in, how you want that to grow over time, right? Because the stock market, unless you're a day trader or this is your, what you do for a living, the stock market for most people is a long-term game. It's, the stock market continues to go up over time, even though there are times that it dips over time. But the thought is a couple of myths that I have, I've even had worked with clients with is the idea that I can't save money and pay off debt at the same time, right? It's really about strategy. There's this snowball, this strategy of, you do the snowball effect. And so you pay off one credit card and you take that payment and then you put it towards another credit card. Usually what I tell people is you can take half of that and put it to the next credit card, but then take the other half and put in savings, right? So you can build your savings and pay down debt at the same time. I think there needs to be some expectation that it's not going to happen overnight, right? So I think there are times that people have very unrealistic expectations of how quickly they want to get out of debt. So they'll take on a part-time job or have the side hustle going, not realizing that they may have some tax implications from doing that, but they'll pay down debt. And then all of a sudden they have this extra cash that they have no idea what they're going to do with after that. So being intentional means that if you're getting that next job or extra job or side hustle to pay down debt, then pay down your debt and then decide what you're going to do with that part-time job or side hustle if you're going to continue it. And if so, then are you putting away in retirement? Are you putting away into savings? What else are you going to be intentional about that money? I think the other thing that I hear often is not to have any debt at all. For the most part, what I've counseled clients with over the years is you have to have a strategy to get out of debt before you get into debt. So then you don't feel straddled by now you have years and decades of debt that is going to take you a really long time to pay off. If you know going in how you're going to get out of it, then it makes it easier to manage debt appropriately.
Well, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was about how a lot of people, when they don't have a plan, then their plan becomes, well, whatever the latest trend or fad is in the world. I'm guessing that you wouldn't suggest that I take all my money and put it in whatever the latest Bitcoin copy is, right?
Cryptocurrency. Yeah, well, it depends, right? I think part of it is you have to have one, understand the source of the information you're getting. Are you getting it from a financial professional that really understands blockchain and cryptocurrencies? If so, then you could take a little bit of that money and put it in that and monitor and keep in touch with your financial advisor about it. I tend not to jump on trends that I don't necessarily understand. And if I haven't connected with a colleague who truly understands what's going on. Now, most people are not early adopters of things. And so they don't understand that there is a risk when you are, the innovator and the early adopter of something, that there could be a downside risk that could be a lot deeper, right, than the upside gain to it. I do think that, following trends and fads comes back to the idea of, does this fit into my lifestyle? Does this fit into my plans? Because I've had clients in the past, invest in certain things that were in alignment with their values and in their current season of priority, right? As we get older, as we have different life events happen, whether it's divorce, a death, a disability, natural disasters, those have a tendency to change our emotional state, our decision-making around finances, because we have external circumstances, impinging upon our financial decisions. But there are times that there can be trends. So let's say, you came into a little bit of an inheritance and you're willing to see what you can do with Bitcoin or some sort of cryptocurrency, get the education on it, or talk to someone who is well-versed and educated on that, and then put some money towards it. Or if you're new in wanting to trade on the stock market, open an E-Trade account. What I tend to tell clients is do it on paper first. and then put some money into the market. And maybe it's 1 or 2 shares of something as you're getting comfortable with understanding how the market works and being able to just leave that money in there to ride out the ups and downs. But ultimately, it comes back down to, will this trend be in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish in this season of journey of our life?
And you have such a gift for explaining this and making people feel comfortable around finances, or even when they may not think that they know that much about it. I think you make people comfortable in discussing this with you because you do have their best interest in mind. So one of the things that really stands out about you, at least to me, is that you have quite a bit of experience, a background in the financial world. You've been a CPA, a chief financial officer, but what you don't actually sell financial products. You don't provide financial services to people, but rather you educate them around around finances, so they can make the best decisions for themselves. What led you to do that, to educate rather than to provide the actual financial services?
Well, mainly because I was doing more educating, as much educating of clients as I was providing, financial planning and strategy and tax prep services. And I thought, well, why not just spend time educating more people and then educating them on how to interact with their CPA or tax preparer and their financial advisor and their banker and their insurance agent, so that they now have a framework they can go back to whenever something happens, good, bad, or otherwise in their life. Get a job promotion. Great. What are you going to do with that extra cash that you're going to get? Here's a great way to approach your CPA. I find that at this juncture in my career, that the more that I can equip and empower women, especially, with a framework that they can use for the rest of their life. So it's not just about becoming literate in your 30s and then having to learn something brand new in your 40s. It's literally a framework. So the Position for Profit framework allows someone to use that as a reference, to go back to, to ground them back into, gosh, what is it that we really want to accomplish? And then it allows them to focus all of their other activities. It'll allow them to focus on what they want to do in their business, what they want to do in their career, what they want to do for their family, for their household, in a way that honors who they are at every stage and season of their life.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads me to my next question. Since you don't sell financial services and instead educate, your Position for Profit system, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to dig into that a little bit, because I suspect it's not just teaching people math to make you successful. Can you dig into that framework and kind of outline what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Position for Profit framework, we start with sort of assessing where we are, right? What's the vision for our life? And if we haven't done one, let's create one. What do we really want to have happen in our personal health, in our house? What do we want to do for our career? Finance becomes the last prompt that we go through. So we talk about vision. We go through a values exercise, because what I valued when I was 20 is not the same that I value as I'm 30 or even 40 or even 50. And so we go through a values exercise. So we assess where we are at the moment. And then we look out 5 years and say, what's that vision for our life in general and the different areas of our life? And then the last piece becomes, so how do we finance that? We might have a job. And if we need to get a raise, maybe we need to look at, acquiring skills. How do we market ourselves? All of those different things. If we have a business, how are we going to grow the business or take more cash and compensation out of the business to fund the life that we envision ourselves having. And so first and foremost is we become aware of where we are, what we've been spending, what are our emotional triggers, what do we believe about, money, what have we been taught? And when we talk about beliefs, a lot of people will talk about limiting beliefs. My personal opinion and philosophy is that, you believe what you believe, and it either serves you or it no longer serves you. And so when we're looking at beliefs, is it still true for me today? And if it is, how can I reframe it so it allows me to continue moving forward? And if it's no longer what I believe today, then how do I replace it with a new belief that will allow me to move forward with more ease? So once we get that framework, that awareness, that assessment framework down, then we go into how do we go ahead and apply what we just learned about ourselves into our calendar and our cash flow. And so we're now going to put together a cash flow plan for the next 12 months, and then which is in alignment with the vision of where we want to be in 5 years. And then every month we go through what are we going to do in the next 90 days? What do I need to focus on this month? And then what do we focus on for each week? And not that we're looking at finances every week, it's what are the activities that are attached to our priorities and our goals, which are all grounded in our values, so that we can move forward holistically and not just look at finances. And then, of course, when we're doing our once a month review of our finances, we do look at our cash flow. We do look at our personal bills or our business bills. Are we paying what we need to be paying? Are there other things that we need to be doing? We create budgets based on priorities, and values are all tied together. And then the last piece of it is, of that system is that we're constantly reviewing and adjusting. So we want to make sure that we just don't put a budget in and then we never look at it, and then we're irritated because we wanted to put $10,000 into savings and we never get there. So part of this framework is that we're looking at the minimum once a month at our finances. It could be when we pay bills once a month, to look at where we're sitting in our checking and savings, our other wealth building assets. How are we doing managing our debt, and are we in line with our priorities that we say we need to do right at the moment? So, and that's literally a continual circle that we can do at any time of the year. And so once we get to a new year, we start that assessment right over again. Where are we along the line in, getting closer to having our vision become manifest? Our values still the same? What are the priorities for this year? Maybe different than last year. It could be sort of like 2020. We had all our goals and our priorities in line, and then, the pandemic decided we needed to readjust everything. So that's literally what the framework, Position for Profit framework does for the clients that come into the Fearless Financial Mastery Academy.
Well, I can't help but create a parallel, put a parallel between what you're talking about and almost like weight loss, right? Successful weight loss, diet is a bad word because people think that means deny yourself, right? Deny yourself dessert, deny yourself this. But the way that you describe this, you've kind of put it in a way where people don't deny themselves. It's not about you have to not support your favorite charities or not take that family vacation in order to do this. It's about making it all fit within the confines of the money you're making, and to kind of allow that to really fund that lifestyle based on what you're making without saying I have to sacrifice that. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think it's putting some healthy boundaries in place. I'll give you a great example. So when I was working with a client, we were putting together a budget, and I said, so what's your food budget? And she said, well, we spend this on, this much dining out and this much on groceries. I'm like, great. So that's a food budget, not a dining out budget and not a grocery budget. If you want $500 a month for food, then you get to decide how much you're going to eat out and how much you're going to cook at home. And so it gives a little bit more freedom. And I do think there is a level of sacrifice because a lot of it's what's most important to us now. The having it all is based on what's important to you individually, what's important for your family, what's important for your business to grow. Because our knee-jerk reaction when we want to start saving money is we just cut everything out. What we think are excesses, and then we get irritated because we're literally eating, what we used to eat in college, right? Top ramen and, beans and franks or whatever it was. Now, if you love that, that's great, but it's a knee-jerk reaction to, well, I have to save money, so let me just cut all the excess out, as opposed to, well, can I make coffee at home, French press coffee, as opposed to doing Starbucks? So you can still have the things that make life enjoyable while you're becoming more disciplined about saving and investing and, managing your debt appropriately.
Now, I think that really puts a spotlight on the focus that it's really about discipline rather than denying.
Absolutely.
That. And so I think that, that's an important muscle for people to flex, and they don't. It sounds like that you did that with your kids too, because a lot of people, by giving kids that allowance and you're allowing them to, I guess, exercise that financial muscle, which a lot of people deny their kids by just, letting them run with everything. You mentioned the Financial Mastery Academy. And so is the Position for Profit part of that Financial Mastery Academy? What does it look like for someone that participates in that? Is it like a group atmosphere? Is it one-on-one? How does that work?
It's mostly group. And so the Position for Profit framework is actually the foundation that the Fearless Financial Mastery Academy is built on. And so we, limit each cohort to about 25 people. And we do have, monthly, we have trainings. We have 3 tracks, one for personal finance, one for business finance, and one for what I call the side hustle, part-time, track as well, because people are doing all of those things, because each of those will have still the same foundational, what's the vision, what's the values, what's the priorities, and then we'll have what I call action and accountability office hours. So you can ask questions about the training, the exercises you've been participating in. There are opportunities to get, specialized, customized coaching that's additional than the tuition for the year that we're together. But I look at it more of like a college course, right? So for the cost of, a year at community college, you've literally laid in foundations for being able to practice what you're learning. How do you look at your financials on a monthly basis? It gives you the ability to look at your personal financials, look at your business financials, put together a budget, manage it and monitor it, and then journal about what's coming up, right? We talked earlier about emotions. We do actually do some journaling. One of the exercises we do early on is to look at what you've been spending money on over the past 30 to 45 days. And as you're notice what emotions are coming up. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Are you judging yourself? Because usually what I tell clients and participants in the program is, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't need me. And so to judge yourself based on past actions as if you just didn't have enough intelligence, you just didn't have what we call, the applied knowledge or the wisdom to be able to close your wage and wealth gap for yourself and for your family.
Well, I've got to say, Audrey, you do have a gift for being able to resonate with folks around this, because it does make a lot of people uneasy. And I think, you give hope to a lot of people that just think they are, stuck in that financial rut, like you talk about, and your ability to give them options and let them see the potential of what, their money can do and the life it can create, I think is a tremendous value. So I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing this information. I think it's going to do a lot of good for a lot of people.
I hope so. I'm really excited about it. And I do feel like, it's really something that we can do, and we can do it together. There's no reason why we can't all have a really solid financial foundation based on, who we are individually.
Well, how can people find out more about Audrey Godwin and the Position for Profit system and the Financial Mastery Academy?
Well, the website is theaudreycompany.com, and you'll find the Fearless Financial Mastery Academy there. And I'm just Audrey L. Godwin on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So just feel free to reach out. Fantastic.
Folks, definitely check out what Audrey has put together. Money, there's an emotional element, and Audrey just has a tremendous gift for helping people, navigate that maze that just not very many people are talking about. So until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.